Good morning. Good morning. It's Aminata Soul Plant Walker Firewoman, and I am here with Ayanna Freedom. Good morning, Ayanna.
Hello. Nice to be here.
So great to be here. I have to tell you that in our Mother Tree community, I have been promoting you as Ayanna Be Free.
Oh, I mean, it's all the same, really.
It really is, but I loved it. I was like, look at me. So so before we get into the freedom part, and I know that's a really big part of you, tell
Yeah.
us tell me what's good. What's good for you today?
Oh my gosh, what's good? So, what comes to mind when you ask that is yoga. And I only say that because I actually feel like the world's in a lot of turmoil right now, particularly just with the war, but with politics and with a recent shooting. And the only thing that really centers me is yoga. And so for me, what's good is yoga because I can use my
Mm,
breath and my body and be embodied by peace, even if there's not peace, in the world.
mm.
Yeah.
And you're a yoga teacher, a certified
I
yoga
am,
teacher?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm certified 500 hour, but also in trauma informed, which is what I really teach and love to teach, which is just allowing people to move in their bodies in the way that feels good to them. Which is actually it's a harder skill to attain.
Yes, it is. You
Yeah.
know, I know because I also taught yoga for a while, a long time ago, and I realized it's very easy to be in your body and presume what's working for your body is working in the room.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
also like people are so used to yoga teachers telling them what to do and how to do it. And trauma informed really flips the narrative of can I invite you to move how you want to move on the mat? And I
Mhm.
will guide you safely through that.
Mhm.
But people are just like floored because they're like, wait, I don't know how to do that. Because like this culture doesn't teach you that that's like a value. It teaches
That's
you that like there's hierarchy and we need to tell people how to do it and what's right and what's wrong. So,
yeah. Yeah, I'm yes. It is harder to support people to find what is the posture for them
right, right.
than
Or
to
yeah. What is
Mhm.
their purpose? Because I always talk about on the mat, it's like if you're just moving the way a yoga teacher tells you how to move, you're not really embodying your own purpose. The point of yoga really should be to invite breath into the present moment so that you can embody who you are and move and express yourself off the mat in that way.
Mm.
Yeah, which is different. People are like, what? Mind blown.
Mhm.
But that's really
Mhm.
yoga. That was the intention, right? Years and years ago. Really, there wasn't a lot of movement with yoga.
Mhm.
There were people
Mhm.
sitting on meditation in the grass for hours or the earth or, wherever bodies were.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
without a lot of movement or, Lululemon yoga pants or,
Yeah, I know. I know. Tell me about I want to go in on that a little bit more.
sure.
So when you're helping someone to come into their body and in their purpose, like tell me what's different about what you say or how you help people to move than like if we go to a standard yoga class.
Yeah, so lots of times if you're in a standard yoga class, they'll say like warrior one, and then they'll walk you through all the elements of warrior one, right? And how your body
Mhm.
should look, feel, right? A lot of how it should look. Um, when I teach, it's more of like, I don't teach postures as much. Like I do warrior poses, but it's after a long stretch of time of getting them in their body on their own. So there's a lot of language around like, get on the mat and move however you feel called to move at this time. And then watching and holding space. And then some people get really stuck. And so then again, guiding them into like, here's the theme. We're working with like yesterday I did purpose, right? Like what's our purpose? And the purpose really is what do you want to bring more into the world? Can you move your body in that way? And then you see people to be like, oh, whoa, that's like a whole different way of thinking about this. And then it's like, and can you come into warrior one? You guide warrior one, but your warrior one is then derived from your purpose. Totally different way of like teaching moving your body.
Mm.
Way
So
more powerful.
so if my purpose is to bring peace or to hold
Yeah. Yeah.
peace, you would say to me, okay, so then you want to move your body in a way that feels aligned with peace.
Yes, like close your eyes. Because then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I don't know what that is. But you close your eyes and you let your body guide what that movement looks like.
Mm. Or
Yeah,
if I need strength, or if I want,
yeah,
I got you. Acceptance. I'm just,
yeah. Or like sometimes, like in like certain yoga spaces, people are asked to move so much, right? It's but like our culture is so embedded in rushing and moving too much, right? We are human beings doing as opposed to human beings being. So yoga really should be teaching us how to be, right? Versus how to do. So we got to make sure that when we're on the mat, we're teaching people how to be,
mm,
whatever that looks like. So I often tell people, like, if you want to take Shavasana and be brave enough to do that the whole class, that's an honor to me. That means you actually listened to your body and what you needed in that moment. Like, there's no like, you shouldn't do that or like you didn't move enough. There's like, thank you for being brave enough to stay still. That's harder than moving quickly.
mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Especially for
sharing
people that,
that.
oh, yeah. Especially for people that have trauma. I think it's important to talk about racial trauma because not a lot of people talk about that in yoga spaces. And that's like one of the things in which like bodies experience trauma, but bodies experience trauma in the body. We always think it's in the head, but it's not. Like you experience, your head makes sense of what happened to you, but the experience happens to your body. So if you're gonna release trauma, you can't like talk it away. Like I'm a therapist, I'm a social worker, right? I have nothing against clinical therapy. I think it's great. But like when you experience something traumatic, it lands somewhere in your body. And if you don't figure out where that is and how to move it out, it's not going to go anywhere. You can't talk that kind of pain away. Even though like we think we can. Yeah.
So how do you get to it if it's in the body? How would you guide someone to get to that a space?
Yeah, a lot of it takes time and guidance of like oftentimes you'll see someone in like it often lands in their hips, especially for women or people that, that have stuff in their bodies or have birth babies. Sometimes it's in their hips, and you'll see people crying like at a hip opener spot,
Mhm.
and that means they got there, right? That means that they've opened something up. A lot of it is guiding emotion linked to movement. So giving permission to have emotion while you're in the moment. So people again move so much that they don't pay attention to where the pain is. So if I can teach people to be still and walk them through like a body scan of like what's on your heart today, right? Where might you be holding things that are painful? Where do you need support? So all that is like letting go of the head of like, because you're like, wait, what? I don't get that. Closing your eyes, and then your body will signal. You'll have a sensation, and you'll be like, oh, there it is. I'm going to focus on that today, and I'm going to give that
Mm,
part of my body love, and that's how you release it. In a
mm,
safe space, though, it takes a lot of, you got to feel safe enough in a container in which you can allow that. That's the tricky part. Is humans have been so taught to build up walls and not to feel and to not be so present or open or authentic. I don't know where that came from, but I don't know. Capitalism, I don't know, racism, all the things, right? It teaches us how to like be heartful to our body and to wish all of the pain away. That's pain's not a bad thing. It's just honoring it and loving it and then working with it,
right,
which
right.
is what yoga teaches you how to do. Yeah.
Mm, mm, yeah. Mm. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
you're
for
welcome.
sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to, you know, there is authority in how you speak and of which you speak,
Mm-hmm.
Ayanna.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you could tell us how you got to this place of being willing to
Mm-hmm.
listen to your body, being able to,
Yeah.
and then therefore being able to teach other people.
Yeah, so this is sort of the premise of, my books was I had an alcohol addiction for a really long time. And that's sort of how I managed all my emotions, right? But that was most people who have an addiction, the gateway we always talk about that is trauma, right? So I had a lot of trauma from being young that landed in my body, in which I had no tools of how to manage. So alcohol worked, right? Well, I thought it worked, right? And then probably the second time I was in rehab for alcohol addiction, something clicked in which I was like, ooh, this stuff's in my body and I got to get it out. Like I was in therapy for years. Like you can, talk and I can also talk circles around therapists. Like you can lie. Like I don't think anyone really knew like the level because I could kind of fake it, right? Um, so I always knew that like dancing and moving my body was something that brought me joy. It was like the only thing that brought me joy aside from alcohol, which, yeah. So think about that. That's a deep statement to say out loud. So I knew at some point in time that I would have to go internal and really figure this out and figure out where the trauma was tearing me apart, in which, because I had to stop reaching for alcohol, right? I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to live my life. I wanted to do things in a healthy way. And so for me, what I did, like AA wasn't working, like all those, the sponsor, it just wasn't, none of that stuff was working for me. It does for some people. But I think there's a real shift in that narrative too that needs to change in terms of like that's an external thing that you have to lean on, right? A sponsor's outside of you, a meeting's outside of you. Like I was like, I gotta find something inside of me that I can reach and hold on to when there's pain, right? Like I can't always reach for something that's external. So for me, when I got on my yoga mat, I was like, oh, I'm safe. I know I'm safe. I found my breath, which ended up being able to shift my thoughts. So if you're someone that has trauma, most of your thinking is negative, right? Because trauma teaches you that you're no good or you're not worthy of love, like all the things, right? So that's just that thing that goes around and around unless you interrupt it. So for me, the breath was and movement was interrupting it. So I had a lot of trauma from my mom, who was also an addict and alcoholic. And so what I would do is get on the mat and like picture times in which were traumatic that happened with her. Take a deep breath, think if I could shift the narrative, the language, and then move my body to get it out. And I did that for like 28 days. And then I wrote about it. And that became the book.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the book is called,
Becoming Free is the first book.
right, Becoming Free by
Yep.
Ayanna Freedom.
Yeah. So it walks you through like sort of my childhood and all the stuff that happened up until I started opened my own nonprofit because I really then had like this recipe for like, wait, you can heal yourself just with your own body. Like you don't need all these other things. The other things are helpful, like therapy is helpful, sponsor is helpful, all this stuff is helpful. Um, but really, if we can tune into our own self in the moment with the breath and the movement, you can have full control over healing yourself.
Mm.
We support. Like I'm also
Right,
like, and community, right? Like we collective healing is like the thing, right?
right,
But it's like, and then can you share that with other people so that there's this collective narrative that also lands in your body that you know you have support with.
right, right. And
Yeah.
what I hear you saying is like you having some kind of resources within yourself
Yeah.
in addition to the external resources.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the external resources you had, a sponsor, talk therapy, were insufficient.
Insufficient.
You
Totally
needed something that
insufficient.
was about your body because that's
Yeah.
what the trauma was it there.
Yes.
Trauma was.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I have to, take my hat. I don't have a hat on, but I I admire you for being willing to take on a painful experience from your childhood spent with a mother who was, caught up in addiction, which is a experience I have, to think
Mm-hmm.
about something specific and then try to feel it in your body and move it in your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I'm trying. Could you help us to like visualize what that might be? Is there like a small example that would work for you to share with us?
Yeah. So I had my yoga mat and there was a moment where this one like trauma vision kept coming, like PTSD, right? Like there was times where my mother would call me when she was drunk and say, "I'm gonna meet you and we're gonna go shopping and meet me at the train." We're gonna do, and I would go and I would wait for like 10 hours by myself, and I was like 10 years old. And that happened like throughout my whole life. And I would just go thinking like she's gonna show, right? She never did. And over time, what that taught me was I thought what that taught me was like I'm not lovable because my mom won't show up for me. And so what and that alcohol fixed that like instantly. It was like you feel like this, drink this, and you're gonna feel amazing, right? So I was like, I can't do that anymore. What can make me feel like that? And so when I got on the mat, I would go back to the train, picture myself, rewrite the narrative, and write down things like love, you are loved, because this experience happened does not equal that you are not a person worthy of beautiful things in the world. And I would sit and meditate, breathe that in, and do like downward dog, and then do like any poses that made me either feel good or feel like I got to just get that out of my body. Right. And so I just did that over and over and over again until when I thought about being at the train and waiting for my mother to be there, it didn't sting. It was sad, but it didn't take me over where like I had to like grab a drink to like make it go away. I could still function throughout the day and be like, oh, I had that thought and wasn't that sad and hard that that happened to me. But how amazing that I found a way to shift that so that I know personally that I am lovable and that I can help people understand that they are lovable too, even though those things happen to them just by moving their body on the mat.
Hmm. 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 And is your mother still alive?
No, she passed away like 12 years ago.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And by the time you discovered this with your body and this way towards your own freedom, was she still here with us, or had she already passed on?
No, she had already passed. Yeah.
Hmm.
The addiction got really bad after she died
Yeah.
because I was always a drinker, but like I was always helping her navigate her stuff. And so I didn't, like, had never even knew who I was because I was helping her whole life. Just because everyone else was gone, I was it. And so when she died, I thought, oh, whatever, it's going to be this relief, right? I don't have to take care of her anymore. She was really sick, and it was emphysema. So like her lungs were giving out, and she'd been an alcoholic coke addict for years. Her body was just deteriorating, and she was young. She died at like 62. Um, so when she died, I was like, oh my God, wait, who am I in the world? And so I couldn't find that. And so again, alcohol, that's when the addiction really became serious. And then I was just so stuck in grief because it was so complicated that it just didn't care. So it took a long time to get healthy from that. Yeah.
Hmm. 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 And what's your relationship with your mom like today?
So it's so beautiful. I don't know how to even describe it to people. It's like she's so powerful in the way that she passed away that she is present with me all the time. I can hear her voice. I can hear her telling me things. Her name was Valerie, and there's a song like Valerie. There's a song, and every time I go in a cafe, the song is on. I mean, it can't. I can't. No one can make this stuff up. Yesterday, I was like, I was just like, this can't be happening. Um, so yeah, it's actually really beautiful. I talk to her every night. Like I go outside and just have a moment and say goodnight and hi. And yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
beautiful relationship.
So much
It,
better because we're both so much better.
yes,
hmm
yes. Wow, you both maybe got free.
Yes, yeah, and then
Eh,
really found each other in that because I don't think our relationship was healthy for sure when
mhm.
when she was alive or when I was an addict, and
Right,
she didn't know either. That's what the crazy thing. I'm taking care of her being an addict, and I'm
right,
dependent on alcohol, and I'm like, what am I doing?
right.
That wasn't conscious. It's wild how much isn't conscious at certain times. But
Yes.
yeah, it was wild. I look back like, wow, isn't that great? And then like being a social worker and a therapist, being a full on addict of alcohol, and then again not being present, and then thinking like it's a good idea to be a therapist to other people. I don't know. I mean, it's not that I didn't help people, but like, it certainly wasn't authentic.
Yes.
When it is now, like when I meet with people, like there's a whole different way of being that I am. Like I like just sort of how you did it. Like I center myself. I create ways in which I can feel their energy. I protect myself. You know, it's a very different exchange than when I was just kind of like going through the motions of life, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And that song, Valerie, by the way, now you got me thinking, is it that one? Why don't you come on over, Valerie?
Yes, that
Valerie.
it's everywhere. Now you're gonna hear
Do-do-do,
it too. Watch, it's gonna be
Valerie.
funny.
Yeah.
Yes, she plays jokes on people too because it
Valerie.
happens to my friends all the time. They always
Oh.
text me like I'm in this cafe and I'm like in London and like it's hilarious. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Oh.
she's saying hi.
That's so beautiful.
Oh
That's so
yeah, oh yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. She's very
And
powerful in her spirit.
would you be comfortable saying her full name out loud so we could
Oh
just
yeah,
acknowledge it?
Valerie Gale Lake.
Valerie Gale Link.
Lake, like a lake of
Lake.
water. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Valerie Gale
Yeah.
Lake. Yes, thank you. So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about your name.
Okay.
So it's Ayanna Freedom. I'm guessing that's not a mistake or an accident. Tell us about the
No.
journey to your name.
so so Ayanna is it's the name is beautiful flower. That my mom got it from some African name book. And then my middle name is actually Nyambi, which means melody. And then I've had many last names because I've been married a few times, and but none of them have connected to me over the years. So I recently changed it. The freedom I added in the past year because I was like, I need to be my own person, and how do I want to feel? And I want that in my name. And so there we go.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Ayana Freedom.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So Ayana, I know that you mentioned that you started a nonprofit. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so that really the mission is to help other people who have experienced trauma to move it out of their bodies using movement and mindfulness. So we offer a variety of different classes, holistic experiences, restorative yoga, yoga, along with mental health counseling. So it's all in one. So it's really like a wellness center where it's like you don't have to go to like your therapist's office and then you go to yoga after because they're going to tell you to go anyway. So we really try to keep it all in one space. We're pretty small right now, but it works. And we see everyone. We have a kids program, we have a veterans program, we have a lot of racial trauma healing stuff that we do. Yeah, a lot of therapeutic groups, just support groups around like different topics around recovery, but also just general healing. A caretaker group for like people because parenting's hard. Let's
Parenting
just
is
be clear
hard.
about that.
Parenting is hard.
I don't know why it's like this weird thing that people just I don't know. It's like you should be a parent, you should love it, you should love the role. I always tell people like I love my daughter to death, like I love her, but I do not love the role of being a parent. And that is okay to say out loud. That is like okay to say out loud. I don't love being a chauffeur. Like I don't love times where I have to do something where like I can't go to my own yoga class, right?
I'm nodding my head vigorously for those of you who can't see me. Yes, and it's such a guilt trip. It is such a guilt trip. Um, especially
It's like the wealth gap is so crazy, right? And so then you're a black woman and you make a quarter of what white folks make that are, have more money. And then you're expected to love the role of parenting at the same time. It's just, and take care of yourself and take care of yourself. Like, yeah, like
well,
half the time I'm like, come to yoga, I'll do all these wonderful things for you. And they're like when? I'm like, right, that is the issue.
that is our issue. But I also, from my own experience, I didn't because I wanted to be a better mother than my mother because I
Right.
was still very caught up in that. I didn't know where to put the boundaries. I didn't know where it was okay, where it was truly okay to take care of myself. So it was just a constant theme, constant agony
Yes.
of mothering for me was
Yeah.
their needs, my needs, their wants, my needs, my I mean, you know, and as you know, kids, when you're inconsistent and you don't know, you know, they will work that theme will get worked.
Totally.
So
Yep.
it was like I used to tell people, wow, this is the hardest job ever in my life
Hardest job
has been
ever. Yeah.
parenting.
The one thing that helped me, which, tell people to adopt even if you don't have a problem with alcohol or other things. But because I have an issue with alcohol and I had to remove that from my life, in order for me to stay sober, I have to prioritize myself. Because if I get to a place where I am so overwhelmed or my body is not functioning well, or I'm stressed where I feel like I'm out of control, my addict brain will say, just get some wine and you'll be fine. But I will die. Like it's that serious. My addiction was that serious in which I would get into a car and like there's no stopping it really. So like I don't have that. I can't not, you know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
a very clear line of like, and then there's people that don't love that. Like my daughter's, dad, we're not together anymore, but like there'll be times where I'm like, no, I actually have to do this. And so like and it becomes like an argument. I'm like, yeah, okay, well then I'll relapse and it's not necessarily that, but it is that clear of like I don't
Yeah.
really have an option. But
Right.
other people can adopt that too for
Yes.
whatever reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can. We
Yeah.
can. And you know, I was in a 12-step program for over 10 years and
Oh,
that
wow. So you
was
know. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
so that was very so I had a place to go to talk it out
yeah.
because you know
Yeah,
what happens in these, you know, our relationships, our most fundamental, closest family relationships
yeah.
are places of bondage.
Yep.
So we so our crazy thinking, you know, we can't think clearly about these things, you know. You need other people to say that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy right now. I'm like, oh, thank
Right,
God,
right.
you know, because I don't really know, you know. So yeah, so I love your name. I love that
Mhm.
reaching towards freedom and staying in the spot. You know, Harriet Tubman has been coming up for me a lot, and Ayanna Freedom. You know, she got herself free, and then she was like, "Let me keep going back to
Yeah.
invite others forward with me."
Right, to bring them forward.
Yes, and that seems like that's what you're doing in your Freedom Center. I'm sorry, it's not the
Yeah.
Freedom Center. It's the
That's okay.
Be
I like
Free
the Freedom
Wellness
Center. I
Center.
wrote that down. I was like, oh, freedom, wellness, and I kind of like that better.
But I love Be Free because it's telling you be
Right, to be
free.
free, right, and to be free in your body, really.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Because another thing that's an interesting thing my kids have taught me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but a couple years ago, it was 2020 when I was having this big spiritual upheaval in my life. And my daughter and I were at a little writing retreat, and she said to me, she had just written down, wake up with the awareness that I'm already free.
Mm.
Wake up with
Bam.
it. Yes,
Drop it. Drop it.
I
And
was,
there it is. Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
yes, because
Already free.
rather
Already
than
free.
right, right. And that's what I love about Be Free Wellness
Yeah.
and you claiming your freedom.
Right. Well, that's so funny because, like, imagine you put that like a sticker on your yoga mat, how different your body would move. Like, how cool is that? How different
Mm,
would your body move? You wouldn't care about, like, because I always tell people, like, yoga's not that serious. Like, it's
yes.
so serious trying to get the pose right. And I'm like, listen, this is about embodiment, right? Like, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to, like, get loud. Like, lion's breath is like, get it out. Like I'm so loud because I'm just like, who cares? Like I don't care. Like just be free. And
Yes.
and all the things, right? It's what trips us up is when we start thinking that we're not. That's what trips us up. And that's what makes us feel out of control with that dichotomy there of like that thinking, like I'm caged or I can't do this or capitalism. I always get caught up in like the capitalist society stuff of like, God damn, there's a lot of horrible things in the world. But yet, I'm free, like I am free enough.
Yes.
I have enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's a deep thing because you start thinking about, yeah, there are these systematic, oppression and systems, right?
Right.
Exploiting and limiting and constricting. Uh, yes. And simultaneously, I'm already free. So if I approach this as a free woman, what would I do? How,
Right.
you know, how can I feel that in my body rather than I'm the constricted,
Right.
bound person?
Right. And I've done some work with women in jails, and that's sort of the language is like, don't let the bars fool you, right? You're free in your body right this second. How are you going to use it? That's the key. That's the answer. And then can you see you doing that on the outside? Because if you don't start envisioning that right now, it will not happen because you're going to already be so negative and like you get your demo like you're going to fall back into patterns that you've already fallen back into. So how can we get you to understand that your body, whatever it is that you've experienced that allowed you to get here, that's not the bars don't equal that. It equals this moment that you're getting out of. Yeah, and that you have the power to be free. It's the jails are just horrible because they take people down. I mean, they're designed to really, right? It's like institutionalized slavery, really. They're designed to break the mind, but not if we have tools.
Mm,
Hmm.
Not
We're
a,
free.
and
We're already free, but I'm literally behind bars. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. It's in your mind. It's in your body. Embody it.
yes.
Be it
And,
now.
yes. And what I like about where you're coming from, Ayana, is that when you can see someone else's freedom, even
Mhm.
when they can't see it,
Yes.
yeah, you become a beacon.
Right. Yes. And a source of power that they didn't know they had.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas if you quote help them, you know, or you're like, yeah, that's really bad. Yeah, yeah, no, that's
Oh yeah. Oh, you
yeah,
shouldn't have
yeah,
done that.
yeah. I mean, then you're like, damn, right? What is that doing? But if
I
you're like
know. Like you
staying
did what?
in,
Oh,
mm,
you've been in here how many times? Like most people that are in jail have been in there like two is the minimum. Most
mhm,
of them 5 times.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
enough. It's okay to
mhm,
say enough. And that's not who you are. We're moving on
mm, mhm,
from this moment on. Hmm.
mhm. I think
Yeah.
this leads us to your next book.
Oh yeah.
And then, well, you know what? We're going to take a sponsorship break, but I want to announce the name of your book. So when we
Okay.
come back, people know why they should come back. We're going to come back and talk about Ayana's second book, which is called Unfuck You're Stuck. Yes, you heard it here. So stay with us on the Mother Tree Network.